the questions that we're giving you. Certainly each section appears to be something that's designed around 5 questions, where it's under a timed restriction and the students answer as many questions as they can in those time restrictions. I think 5 questions is a good place to start with. But I do intersperse within this document some that are longer. So for example, 4.5 is a good example of a longer set of questions. So this is 4.5. And what I want to claim over here is that although I can't remember where these questions came from, all the questions in this guide, by the way, are just a collection of stuff I've collected over time. You know, I see it somewhere. Someone asked me a question somewhere. I kind of jot it down. I come up with an initial solution to the problem. You know, sometimes I go to the internet, look around some more. But it's just a collection. But these were, I believe this set was taken from a placement test for a university system. Right? I'm thinking it has to do with England. Maybe I could be wrong, by the way. So a group of students there, you know, they're competing to get into the top schools in Britain, and they're given a test, and they're asked to, you know, do the best they possibly can. Again, in a timed environment. What I noticed about the questions, though, were they were kind of sequential in nature, right? In other words, they'd ask like for question number 1, they would ask. This is question number 1 I'm looking at. They'd ask something that sort of breaks the ice, right? That most students, especially well-prepared students, could get through it pretty quickly. And then, of course, they bump it up a level by going to, you know, they have part A, then they got part B. And they tend to do this on the test that I was looking at. Now, I don't know if this is a common theme of their questions, but I thought it was good because they kind of go to different levels of understanding, all right? And I can say it's not bad. Now, certainly, you'll see the same thing in question number 2. You'll see 2 parts to it. Right. These are tough questions, though. I'm not saying they're not. I had a tough time writing them up. Right. Question number 3, you see parts to it. Question number 4, well, no really parts like A and B. All right, so that's just, I guess, one big part, maybe. Number 5, you're seeing it broken into parts again. All right. And then I go through the answers on it. All right. I put it in the blue area. I'm not going to go through it because it's going to take too long. This was not the entire test, by the way. I just simply, again, thinking back over it, I think what I did was I just looked through the test and I kind of looked for, you know, like the low-hanging fruit in the test, so to speak. And I think these are the questions I selected from it. But I do type up the answers for you, all right? So hopefully, if you're interested and you're looking at these things, that you can work through this stuff, all right? But again, if you need to reach out to me, I think by now you know my email address and you could reach out to me. But it's long, right? It's much longer than the other ones, much longer, much tougher to get through. And certainly I provide some visual aids there to help you out with some of the questions as well. I'd look over it though. I always emphasize that you should try a problem before looking at the key. Now, some people say, well, I just want to look at the key to see how you did it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but you're not really gaining the structure that you need to gain from, which is, you know, creating a path to an answer. All right. Now, a lot of times you can't create a path to an answer. So what do? You look at somebody else's path, and then you might want to try to imitate that. And that's fine. You want to do that. But again, these are much more difficult questions than you're used to seeing in the other problem sets that we've been giving you. Again, I can't say it enough times. Look over it. All right. Really look over this. As you can see, the length of this thing, it's much longer. That's why I'm not doing a complete video on this guy over here. It's much more difficult. Much, much more difficult. You know, broken into parts, yada, yada, yada. But again, it's doable. I believe with most students that have had, you know, what I call a good high school education, do the level of calculus, you know, like the AP calculus, and I've actually took it seriously too, by the way, should be able to attack these problems. All right. I do want to emphasize though that a lot of times don't be discouraged if you can't answer it. You might be concerned about these placement tests that students are given. Not every student taking the placement test gets a perfect score on it. It just doesn't happen. You know, typically there's a range of scores from like awful to, you know, really good, right? And then the committee's got to make a determination of who they're going to admit into their program. And they do it by test, which I think is a fair way of doing things, right? Students can prepare for these tests. They know the material that's going to be on the test, and they prepare for it. Now, again, it's not trivial stuff where they're just imitating, a solution to a problem. They got to think, and that's the problem with a test like this. It requires thinking and it requires knowledge of the material. All right, so I'm hoping that you're able to start thinking through that stuff. I do appreciate you listening. Thank you.